Emerging Europe Talks brings you insight and intelligence designed to help entrepreneurs, investors, governments, and all knowledge seekers navigate the emerging Europe region. The talks focus on innovation and technology, sustainable social and economic growth, business, politics, and culture, and help the right people identify the right opportunities and trends.
Hello everyone. Today, Emerging Europe talks real estate with Gustas Germanavicius. Gustas is one of the co-founders and the CEO of EvoEstate, a real estate investment aggregator that was launched in February 2019. Its users can simply invest in real estate deals around Europe and I believe soon globally. Within 1 year, the company helped co-finance almost 200 real estate projects in 15 countries. Gustas, welcome to Emerging Europe Talks. How's it going?
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. So I want to start with the first question here. And, in December 2019, Emerging Europe published a list of 10 startups to watch. And the list included EvoEstate. I guess we weren't wrong, were we?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess you were right. Just when you were opening this podcast, you mentioned almost 200. Just this week, we have exceeded 210 projects. And for you to give a perspective what it means in such a short period of time, we have already established ourselves as second largest real estate loans marketplace in Europe, which—
Congratulations.
Thank you, Andrew. The size by itself, it's not an achievement, but I think the achievement in our case is the broad diversification and the opportunities for the investors to spread their capital across multiple countries and different types of deals. Until we founded EvoEstate, for a retail investor, it was extremely difficult to diversify, while even the bigger platforms in Europe remained relatively small by offering deals only in their regions or countries.
So I wanted to take a step back in a way. And, oftentimes when you have startup founders, they come up with an idea and a solution to an issue that they experience themselves. Was that the case with you as well? And I know that your website, for example, says that you put your own money, into the project as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea to find EvoEstate actually came exactly from our personal experiences, because we have been following this industry closely and investing into real estate crowdfunding deals for the last 6 years, more or less since the time it began in continental Europe. All of the platforms, even the larger ones, they operate in their own regions. So before EvoEstate, if you wanted to diversify your crowdfunding portfolio, you would have to sign up at multiple platforms, which of course is a very time-consuming job. And most importantly, a lot of platforms, they restrict foreigners to invest as well. You have to be a resident in a particular country. So we aimed initially to solve these problems. And after we began solving the bigger problems that the investors are facing. So we also found that only very few platforms in Europe have secondary market. A secondary market is a product feature where you are able to sell your investments prior to their maturity date. Because real estate projects are long and it takes time for them to get completed and sold, you commit your capital for 12, sometimes even 36 months. So you always want to have a possibility to exit earlier. So we have launched secondary market almost since we launched our service. And when we really got a very good proof of how good it works was the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic in Europe. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of panic. And it's natural. And people thought they really maybe some had good reasons to liquidate their investments. Maybe others just got scared. And I was very surprised and happy to see how well the secondary market operated. 70% of all the trades were concluded within 3 days. That's an outstanding result, because we have solved one of the most fundamental problems with real estate in general. Real estate historically has been a very illiquid asset. Naturally, the illiquidity is the price for the stability. But with EvoEstate, I think we are changing the status quo and saying that the liquidity shouldn't be the price for the stability. So the way how we see ourselves going, we are not positioning ourselves as highest return, greatest capital growth platform out there. That's not our goal. Our goal is to position ourselves as stable, a good place to diversify your investments and predictable returns, meaning that we don't experience significant delays. And coming back to COVID-19 as well, I was extremely happy to see that our total portfolio, which is, which you just mentioned, that consists of close to 200 projects, it didn't experience total late investments of more than 2%. So that was an outstanding result considering the general sudden economic impact on the European economy.
So can you explain to our audience what actually, what real estate crowdfunding really is? Because maybe not everyone is really, familiar with that term.
Yeah, absolutely. So real estate crowdfunding involves businesses, so in most of the case, real estate developers and investors, and they reach out to crowdfunding platforms where they pass the due diligence of the platform and publish the projects to finance. And then hundreds or thousands of people simultaneously finance the project. So the reason for it to begin in the first place was the lack of bank financing in Europe, but I wouldn't say it across all countries, but mainly Baltics, Spain. This came after 2008-2009 crisis when, after bad experiences, the banks significantly reduced their lending volumes, and it has mostly affected small and medium-sized businesses. So prior to launch, the crowdfunding began, they used to borrow money either very expensively from their closed network or looking for non-banking lenders. But it wasn't an efficient way of financing, and most importantly, it was very expensive. So crowdfunding began, and at first, the model was based that the borrower gets a loan from the investors while securing the loan against the asset. So the investors get the first charge security over the asset. So if the borrower would be insolvent, the platform would repossess the asset and sell it. So in this case, the investors have some sort of guarantees and their capital is protected. So this was the very first step of the crowdfunding. Very simple. Basically what bank does, just provide fixed interest loans for real estate development or renovation. Where the crowdfunding is today, and I would say it's 6 to 7 years later, because we are in Europe quite a bit behind compared to the US. Currently, the crowdfunding offers more types of deals. So of course, the largest part of the market is fixed interest loans, the development finance, but then we are seeing an increase in other types of business types. So basically, buy-to-let investments are growing. So imagine yourself investing into a property which is going to be rented, but instead that you are buying the whole thing, you can invest with as little as 100 euros. So this opens a possibility for a retail investor to own an rental apartment without spending too much money on it. And then there are some more other interesting models, which we are seeing also in Spain, is equity financing. So this is the highest risk, highest reward investment, where investors through crowdfunding co-invest together with the real estate developer into project's equity, and later this whole project is getting leverage with bank loans, and after it's being completed, and the earnings from the investments are being distributed as dividends. Of course, this is the highest risk, highest reward investment, but we are seeing more innovative models today, and I believe that in the next couple of years, there are many other great to come.
So tell me, if we look at it from an investor's perspective, and you are talking about retail investors, how does that compare? And I'm talking about the return on investment, for example, to traditional real estate investment.
When you're saying traditional real estate investment, do you mean buying a rental property?
For example, yes.
So I think that you have to compare these two different types of investments. We have to understand your knowledge. If you are a professional landlord who is going to leverage the investments and take bank loans, and even with rental properties and being experienced, you have no trouble getting into double digits return rate. The problem is that most of the investors do not have these qualifications, or they do not simply have enough time to do it. So in that regard, real estate crowdfunding becomes an attractive option because it's not that hard to get into double digits returns. So we are talking 10, 11, 12% annual return rate with development projects. But if we would be looking at the lowest risk investment, which is buy to let, which I just previously explained, there are no leverages. There's just a simple property which is being acquired. Investors can expect to earn 5 to 6% annual return, which is very comparable to owning an actual real estate. But the biggest benefit, in my opinion, is that you don't have to physically own that thing. Basically, you don't have to worry that, you know, a toilet will get broken and you have to fix it because the tenant will not be happy, or, you know, that you have a problematic tenant. The originator or the borrower takes care of these problems. So you really can just invest the money and don't really worry about it for longer periods of time.
And so tell me a little bit more about the uniqueness of EvoEstate, and, you know, how and why perhaps individual investors or retail investors should be looking at this option if they are interested, you know, in putting some money aside in these, you know, challenging times.
I think that every crisis brings an opportunity. What I've been seeing lately, the deal flow of real estate investments on the European crowdfunding market, is that the interest rates may not have increased that much considering the an uncertainty which is in the market, but we have seen a very significant increase in the quality of the deals. So I think that naturally it's yet a bit too early to say what will be the outcome. The general benefits of the real estate crowdfunding is that you can invest in real estate with very small amounts, and it's pretty simple, especially if you want to invest in rental properties. You don't have to deeply understand finances or the business model of real estate companies. It's much more based on data, and a lot of those investments are secured with long-term contracts, which of course reduces the risk. And maybe this is not the highest return that one can make, but on the other hand, it's still better to make a stable return just to beat the inflation, which will be very significant in the coming years.
I see. So tell me, what are your plans going forward? We already mentioned, you know, that you will soon enable investors to, well, basically invest in projects globally. What are you planning on offering, you know, when it comes to other services, options?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think that moving forward, our main goal is to improve our existing features. So basically what we've been building, how we were building this whole service up to date, we have been building it fast to provide more products faster. Now we have reached this point where we actually need to improve the quality and slow down. So we will naturally be improving all the products that we are consistently, which we have already deployed. And what we are seeing a big opportunity on the European market, and that's actually one of the things I've been talking quite a lot in this podcast, is these buy-to-let investments, the rental properties. I believe that this market is yet to be found in Europe because we are currently have 3 very small players compared to, you know, tens of them in the UK or as well as in the US. So I think that the retail investors will be looking for more simple, stable ways to invest their capital. Real estate is a valid option for that, and our long-term goal is to participate in that. So either look into and venture into originating the buy-to-let investment opportunities and creating the lowest risk, stable return environment in Europe.
Gustas, the last question for today. What are your thoughts about the prospects for crowdfunding across emerging Europe going forward?
It's a very good question. I believe that, in a sense, the emerging Europe countries, especially the Baltic states, have already established sort of on a hub for crowdfunding market, real estate. We have two of the largest real estate crowdfunding platforms here. We have a booming P2P lending industry here. And what I see coming in the next few years with European-wide regulations, these companies will naturally go internationally much easier, because currently a lot of them are restricted by the local regulation. And then we are seeing some really interesting malls coming up where the crowdfunding model is being applied for investments. For instance, artworks and renewable energy. And just recently, there's already some new companies coming up where, for instance, one Lithuanian company is applying a crowdfunding financing for heavy machinery. In the coming years, we'll see many more of them, and especially in the Baltic states, where the regulation and the crowdfunding businesses are being very progressive.
Gustas, this podcast is all about identifying opportunities. So thank you very much for all the insights, and best of luck for EvoEstate. I'm quite sure the company is going to grow even faster. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and do leave a review. This will help us ensure a regular stream of great guests you want to hear from. And finally, check out our news and analysis platform at emerging-europe.com. Thank you all for listening, and we look forward to your company for the next episode of Emerging Europe Talks.